Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to show you how I made 3 Anthropologie inspired DIYs. Anthropologie is definitely by far my favourite homeware shop of all time, but at the moment we're on a bit of a budget, so I figured I would make some inspired DIY pieces. Anyway, all of these DIYs were super affordable. In fact, the wall hanging, which is actually right above me, was made using a £6 bath mat from Primark. I made a little plant pot from a recycled glass jar, and I also redecorated my lamp with just some cotton and some cardboard. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed these DIYs and hopefully they give you a little bit of inspiration yourself to make some DIYs. So for the first DIY I'm going to show you is how I made that lamp, kind of the redecorating of the tassels and everything. This was made inspired by one of the lamps on the Anthropologie website. It was just a lampshade, but anyway. First of all, you need to make the tassels. So in order to do this, I just took this kind of meat pitchfork kind of looking thing, and I just went ahead and wrapped some cotton around it. I just used white cotton for mine and I wrapped it around 60 times. I actually only did it 30 because I used 2 spools of cotton, but of course you can just do it individually. That's how I started, but figured if I did 2 at a time it would make it quicker. Anyway, once I had the kind of spindle round cotton, I then took another piece and I just kind of looped it around and pulled it through the loop to create a slip knot. I then secured that into place by wrapping it around my finger to create another loop and then threading it through to knot it over. I did that a few times to make sure it was fully secure, and I did it to both ends. If you're doing this with a normal fork, by the way, you can do it that way, but it will take you a lot longer. You will only be able to make one because obviously the fork is only an inch long. That's why I chose to use this one. I chose to do it double-ended so that I could just cut in the middle to save any kind of wastage of cotton, anything like that, because obviously if you only did one at a time, you'd have to cut the loopy bit off and you would end up wasting a load. Anyway, I just went ahead and cut off any of the excess parts, and then I was left with a tassel. I then went ahead and made 5 of these for each half circle that I made. To make the half circles, I actually just used this piece of corrugated cardboard sprayed with a gold spray paint. I actually used Bright Gold by Rust-Oleum. As you can see here, this was the exact same spray paint that I used, and I just did one thin coat on there to make it metallic. I then rolled my cardboard with a circle die in my Big Shot die cutting machine, but you can of course just draw on the back with a kind of coin or something and just cut it out. In order to make the holes into the circle, I just took a pin and popped 5 little holes and then made them a little bit bigger with a dotting tool. I then cut the circle in half so I was left with a half semi-circle kind of piece, and then I just went ahead and sewed the tassels through each of the holes on that semicircle. This was a little bit fiddly, but with some practice I got there in the end. I did go ahead and do this approximately 16 times, not gonna lie. I just winged it and made as many as I could whilst I watched TV. I watched a few movies, I caught up on Riverdale, all the shows, and to be honest, I was there for a good 2 or 3 days making these tassels, but it was worth it in the end. If you want to skip past this and not make your own tassels, you can of course just buy a trim and cut them off and attach them to the semicircles yourself. Next I went ahead with a gold thread and just thread around the lampshade of my lamp to give the nice kind of stitch effect that I seen on the Anthropologie one. I did this all the way around the top and the bottom of the lampshade. What I then needed to go ahead and do was attach the semicircles, so I just used hot glue for this because I figured it would just be the easiest way. I hot glued onto the back and just held them down. For the top ones, I kind of made sure they were underneath that stitching, and then for the bottom ones, I just made sure they were kind of hot glued across the straight bit of the semicircle, and then I just kind of hot glued them onto the edge of the lampshade instead of actually on it. Hopefully that makes sense, just so they were dangling down like the actual one. Anyway, once all of the tassels and everything were then in place, this is what it looked like on my lamp. I think it looks super effective and fairly similar to the original without the £128 price tag. This actually cost me nothing as I already had it, but of course if you need to buy cotton, you can just get that from Poundland. Anyway, for the second DIY, I actually just used this old jar that I've had for the longest of times. I don't know what was originally in this, but I've had it for quite a few years now. My nan actually gifted it to me in a bunch of jars, and I went ahead and just took a Sharpie pen and I just wrote the word bloom. To make this 3D, I actually used some hot glue and I just piped out the hot glue around the wording. And the reason that I did this was just because I needed it to be raised, like the one I was kind of, imitating a little bit. I actually seen this gorgeous pink pot on the Anthropologie website, which I'll leave a picture for you now, and that's what inspired this DIY. So I was originally going to use clay, but I figured hot glue would be a quick and easy fix for this, and it actually worked out perfect. I then took some chalk paint, and this was Rust-Oleum's white chalk paint with a little bit of the mustard mixed in to make this beige colour, and I just did a thick coat, left it to dry, and did another one afterwards. Once that was dry, I then used the Rust-Oleum Pebble spray paint, which is actually like a stone feature, and I did 2 layers of that, and then what I went ahead and did was peeled off the masking tape until I was left with a nice smooth line across the top. You of course don't have to do this if you wanted to make this DIY, but I wanted to still show off some of that glass and make it kind of like 2 kind of different tones going on, and I'm really happy that I did. I then popped in some eucalyptus bits, and this is how the little thing turned out. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, and the lettering works so well on it and definitely gives it such a little bit of extra texture and like something extra to look at. Anyway, for the third and final DIY, I actually just went ahead and used a bath mat. I was in Primark the other day, I don't know if you saw my vlog, and I seen these bath mats and I was like, I could do something with that. Anyway, what I went ahead and did was chopped off the top, basically like 3 rows down and like all the tassels, and I then started pulling out some of the strings. I basically pulled out every other one of like the bobbles, and once I had done that, I then needed a wooden stick. Mine was too short, so I actually ended up hot gluing 2 together, and then what I went ahead and did was pulled like half of the tassels that I pulled out downwards so that they were all kind of laid out flat. I then went ahead and took some hot glue and hot glued all the way along the raw edge of the fabric and just stuck down my like joint together stick and made sure that all like the loose ends and everything were really attached to the stick so that they wouldn't fray anymore or anything like that. I then went ahead and popped a little bit of hot glue over that join and then started just tying up those bits of like string and everything. I hot glued here just to make sure that that bit was completely covered. You don't have to do that if you didn't make a join in your stick. But yeah, you just want to start tying off the kind of like little twizzly bits that you have sticking out of the top. I actually just went along and did one side at a time and then just cut off any excess pieces as I was going along. And I also did hot glue a few little like straggly bits down just if they were kind of in the way or felt a little bit loose. I thought, just a little bit of hot glue would give them a bit of structure. Next, I decided my wall hanging needed some extra kind of tasseliness. So going back to that bit I cut off, I just cut some of the tassels off of the end. I then just pulled out and flattened out the edges and then just hot glued along where I wanted to pop it. I popped it on like the right size way together and then hot glued that down with my hands, burning my hands in the process, I might add. And then I popped another glue line down underneath the knots, pulled it over on itself and then just patted it down so that I still had all that detailing of the knots. I actually did 2 of these on my wall hanging in total. This one here is a bigger one that I did closer to the bottom, and then I just went ahead and cut all the way along, making sure that they were nice and level. To make sure that my wall hanging kind of had something to hang with, I just took some cotton like string. I don't know, I actually got this from Poundland. You can get it in there all year round. It's just in the packing supplies. I just tied it in a knot, popped some hot glue on and swirled around the excess. I did this on both of the ends to make sure that I had a kind of like hanging kind of bit of string. How else would I describe that? But tying it in a knot and the hot glue made sure that it was really secure, and I would definitely recommend gluing it, not just tying it, because it may come undone or it may slip out, something like that. Hot glue is definitely your friend in this project. I then went ahead and used some pom-pom makers that I bought from Home Bargains not so long ago. These have come in so handy and I've used them so much since I bought them. I'm so glad I got them. You actually get a set of 3 for £1.49 in there, so would definitely recommend that. Anyway, I just made up some pom-poms. I made some big ones for the ends and I just popped them onto the end of the sticks. I tied them in a knot and just hot glued them down in the same way that I did the string, just to make sure that they were fully secure and weren't going anywhere. So like I said, I did both of these on like both ends, and then I went ahead and made 5 smaller kind of pom-poms with a 3cm pom-pom maker, and I just hot glued these randomly onto the wall hanging, just so that it kind of like balanced out the tassels and gave it a little bit of extra texture. Once those were fully on there, my wall hanging was then complete. I just hung it up using a command hook, and this is how it turned out. I think it looks absolutely brilliant for the fact it is actually just a bath mat on a stick, but I'm really obsessed with it. I think the pom-poms definitely give it extra texture, a bit of darker tones in there, and I just think it looks beautiful. The fact that this cost me £6, I just don't think that you can go wrong. That is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments, by the way, which one was your favorite out of the 3, whether it was the little plant pot, the lamp kind of redecorating, or it was the wall hanging. I love the wall hanging so much. I actually am really impressed with how all of the bits came out. So yeah, I'm really happy with them. Thank you so much for making it this far in the video, and I will see you very soon for another one. Bye.